Chapter 6. Dumpsters and Hoopsters. Thursday morning, Julie woke up early with a tingling of excitement. She dressed and ate quickly. If she hurried, she could get the last 3 signatures on her way to school. By the time Julie turned the corner at the bakery, she was almost running with eagerness to get to school, and Coach Manley. But she paused when she saw Hank drinking coffee through the bakery window. She walked over and pressed her clipboard up against the window. She held up 1 finger, then 5 fingers, then made a 0 with her thumb and index finger. 1, 5, 0. Hank smiled a big grin and raised his coffee cup in a toast. At school, Julie made a beeline for Coach Manley's office. As she cut through the quiet gym, the smell of the polished wood and the squeak of her sneakers gave her goosebumps. She pictured herself faking left, driving toward the basket, and leaping in the air to make the perfect layup. When Julie got to his office, Coach Manley was on the phone. She clutched the petition in her hands, waiting for the conversation to end. It was almost time for the bell to ring. Standing in the doorway, Julie held the papers up, trying to get Coach Manley's attention. She shuffled her feet. She coughed. She was about to knock when Coach Manley motioned her in. Then he saw the papers in her hand.
"Whatever it is, Albright, just leave it,"
he told Julie, covering the receiver with one hand. But it's really...
I said leave it. Can't you see I'm busy right now? Stop back later.
Looking down at the rumpled, taped-together pages with curling edges, full of smudged basketballs, Julie thought of all she'd been through to get those 150 signatures. She wanted to explain the significance of all those names. But she had no choice. She set the papers down on Coach Manley's desk and rushed to her classroom as the bell rang. All day, Julie couldn't think of anything else. Finally, in the middle of social studies, she leaned over and whispered to TJ, "Do you think Coach Manley has read my petition?"
"Julie, TJ," said Ms. Hunter, "is there something you'd like to share with the class about the Mississippi River?"
"Sorry, Miss Hunter, I have a stomachache," said Julie, which wasn't exactly a lie. "May I please have a hall pass to go see the nurse?" Julie started down the hall to the nurse's office, but she couldn't stop her feet from heading straight to the gym office. She knocked at the open door. "Excuse me, Coach Manley?"
"What is it, Albright? Shouldn't you be in class?" the coach barked.
"Did you get a chance to read my petition?" Julie asked, nervously twirling her mood ring. She was afraid to even look to see what color it was.
"I read it. Doesn't change a thing. Sports are for boys, not girls."
"But Coach, it's not just me anymore. 150 people agree that I have a right to play on the team."
"I don't care if you show me 150,000 names. They're all going in the same place."
Right before her eyes, he balled up the petition and went for a basket. In the trash can. Julie felt as if somebody had just punched her in the stomach.
"A piece of paper's never going to get you on this team," said the coach. "Now scram, before you get a demerit for being out of class."
As Julie headed back to her classroom, trembling with anger, a voice behind her boomed,
"Young lady, are you supposed to be in the halls right now?"
Julie stopped in her tracks. She turned and found herself looking right at Mr. Sanchez's pencil, which was pointing at her this time. His piercing eyes made her feel like a rabbit caught in an eagle's talons. She held up her hall pass. "I'm on my way back to class," she squeaked.
"No wandering around now. Straight back to your lessons."
"Yes, Mr. Sanchez," Julie said, hurrying, but careful not to run, back to class. "I'm so mad I could scream," Julie told TJ as soon as the final bell rang. "All my hard work, and he just crunched up my petition like it was nothing but an old hamburger wrapper." "What are you going to do now?" asked TJ. Julie paused. She'd been so certain her petition would work that she hadn't thought of a backup plan. There was only one thing she could think of to do. Get my petition back. But how? Come on, let's go find Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin, the janitor, was cleaning the cafeteria. He led them out the back door and gestured to the 7 giant bags of trash. They're ready for the dumpster, but until then, they're all yours. Search away, Mr. Martin said grandly with a sweep of his arm. Julie and TJ dug right in. For 20 minutes, they were up to their elbows in milk cartons, pencil shavings, popsicle stick projects, and old worksheets. When Julie looked up at TJ, his face was smudged with purple from all the ditto sheets. Ordinarily, Julie knew she would have laughed to see TJ with a purple face, but right now, she was too upset. I don't see it anywhere, said TJ. And I better get to practice, or I won't be on the team either. Please, TJ, only 2 more bags to go. Wait, what's this? Page 2, this is it. She held up the page in triumph. It was wrinkled and smeared with what looked like chocolate milk drips, but Julie's heart leapt. It was like seeing an old friend. They dug deeper into the bag. Here's another page, said TJ. I found page 1, said Julie. We have them all, even though they smell like sour milk. Thanks a million, TJ. She knew what she had to do now. It would be harder than finding her petition in the trash, harder than facing Coach Manley, harder than collecting all the signatures. Ignoring her pounding heart, Julie made herself walk down the hall to the front office. But when she got there, she froze outside the forbidding door. The door that said, Joseph Sanchez, Principal. No turning back now, Julie told herself. The flutter inside her stomach was already whipping itself up into a tornado. She summoned all her courage and knocked on the door. Come in, a deep voice said. Julie stepped into the principal's office, crossing the sea of gold carpet to stand in front of his desk, which was as shiny as a polished apple. Not even one paperclip was out of place. Julie stood flagpole straight, clutching her petition. She felt her hands grow moist. You haven't done anything wrong, she reminded herself. The principal looked up from his desk. What can I do for you, young lady? He asked. Julie took a deep breath and began to talk. She told him about wanting to play basketball and how there was only a boys' team and the coach said no girls. She told him how good she was at basketball, how her father always said she could dribble like a Harlem Globetrotter, but now that her parents were, well, divorced, she couldn't play very often with her dad anymore. Then suddenly, running out of words, she handed Mr. Sanchez the wrinkled petition. The principal looked at the first page. Julie could hear the clock ticking as he read the long list of names. He turned to the next page and the next. Finally, he peered over his reading glasses at Julie. So, you're a hoopster. You know, I was a pretty good point guard myself back in my high school days. I used to dribble circles around some of the tallest guys on defense. He wasn't angry with her. Julie felt herself breathe again. I can see this means a lot to you, Mr. Sanchez continued. I can't make any promises, Julie. I'll have to talk this over with the school board. I'll get back to you next week. At home that evening, Julie gushed with news of her eventful day. I'm proud of you, honey, said Mom, putting her arm around Julie and squeezing her tight. Weren't you scared talking to the principal? Asked Tracy, looking up from her homework. Yes, said Julie, but he turned out to be nice. He used to play basketball too. Bling! The timer went off in the kitchen. Mom walked over to the oven and pulled out a steaming casserole. Anyone hungry? Mom asked. I made tuna noodle casserole with potato chips on top, the way you girls like it. You made a real dinner? Julie and Tracy asked at the same time, looking at each other in disbelief.
Come on, it's not all that unusual, is it?
Mom, we've had takeout about 100 times since we moved, said Tracy.
Only 100? asked Julie, and everybody laughed. Hey, Mom, don't forget. Tell her about the thing. Tracy nodded toward the table by the front door. The thing? Nervously, Julie followed her sister's glance toward the front door, but she couldn't see anything unusual. Oops, I almost forgot in all the excitement, said Mom. A package came for you today. For me? Special delivery. Mom winked at Tracy. The small box was taped shut and rattled a little when Julie shook it. It doesn't say who it's from, she said, puzzled. Just open it, said Tracy. Julie ripped open the box, only to find a paper towel tube inside with the ends taped shut. She peeled the tape off one end and shook out a rolled-up sheet of paper that fell open like a scroll. What does it say, Jules? asked Tracy. It's a petition, Julie said slowly. Just like the one I made for basketball, with columns and numbers and everything. At the top were big block letters. Julie read the words aloud. Petition to be Julie Albright's best friend. 1, Ivy Ling. 2, Ivy Ling. 3, Ivy Ling. 4, Ivy Ling. 5, Ivy Ling. Julie unrolled the petition all the way to the floor. She signed it 150 times. That's some friend you've got there, said Mom. Monday went by without a word from Mr. Sanchez. Then Tuesday. Every time Julie left her classroom, she kept an eye peeled. This time, instead of worrying that he'd point his accusing pencil in her direction, she was actually hoping to spot him. But Mr. Sanchez was nowhere to be seen. On Wednesday, Julie offered to take the roll call sheet to the office for Ms. Hunter, just hoping that the principal might come out from behind that closed door. But he didn't. Finally, on Thursday, shortly before the last bell was about to ring, an announcement came over the PA system. Julie Albright, please report to the principal's office. Julie Albright. What'd you do? Angela asked. She's in trouble, said Allison. It was all Julie could do not to sprint down the hall to the office. But at the same time, she could feel a knot in the pit of her stomach, a small lump of dread. What if the school board had turned her down? What if the principal had talked to her dad? What if the answer was no? Mr. Sanchez was standing in the doorway to his office. Hello, Julie, he said, motioning for her to come in and sit down. He cleared his throat. After careful consideration, I've determined that we're not in a position to start a girls' basketball team at this time. He paused. Julie's heart sank. However, I've also determined that to be in full compliance with Title IX, our school must allow you to play on the boys' basketball team. He smiled. So, that makes you the newest member of the Jack London Jaguars. Julie jumped out of her seat. She could hardly keep from throwing her arms around him. Wait till she told TJ. Now, before you get too excited, I'm not finished yet. Let me stress that there may be some who will disagree with this decision, and I don't want any trouble, on or off the court. I've spoken with Coach Manley, and you will report directly to him if you have any problems. Julie nodded. Thank you, Principal Sanchez, she said politely. But in her mind, she was already dribbling down the hall, through the open doors of the gym, and out onto the court. Walking home, Julie took a shortcut and realized for the first time that she knew the route by heart. She no longer had to concentrate on street names, landmarks, or left and right turns. Her feet practically bounced with the good news, past the purple iron gate, past the funny-faced fire hydrant, past the giant peace sign mural. She couldn't wait to tell Mom and Tracy, knowing how excited they'd be for her. Ivy, too. Dad. Julie wondered what he would say. He hadn't liked the idea of her playing on a boys' team. But wasn't he the one who taught her how to shoot hoops in the first place? Surely he wouldn't really be unhappy. Julie imagined bursting through the front door of their old house and announcing the good news to her whole family all together, and then racing across the street to tell Ivy. Unfortunately, that's not the way it would be. She couldn't even call Dad tonight. Nobody would answer the phone at his house, and she didn't even know where he was flying this week. She'd just have to wait and tell him on the weekend. That's how it was now. But she wasn't going to let it spoil her good mood. As Julie turned the corner onto Redbud Street, she saw the welcoming lights beneath the front awning of Glad Rags, glowing as if in celebration. Mom would be there, bracelets jangling, as she arranged items on a shelf or waited on a customer. And Tracy would be home any minute, tossing her tennis racket on the kitchen table, kicking off her sneakers, fixing herself a snack. In the living room, the prism hanging in the front window would just be catching the last light of day, splashing rainbows everywhere, all around the room. Julie broke into a run, heading home.
And now, Julie tells her story. A school project helps Julie think about her family in a new, more hopeful way.
Chapter 1. Homework. Homework. Julie Albright had never had so much homework before. At her old school, all she'd had to do for homework was fun stuff, like reading Charlotte's Web or doing a word search. But Ms. Hunter's 4th grade class at Jack London Elementary had book reports to write, vocabulary words to memorize, and geography maps to draw. Julie thought she just might go cross-eyed, staring at the web of pink, green, and yellow countries and continents. And now, Ms. Hunter had just announced a new assignment, a family project that would stretch out over several weeks. Julie winced. Families were not Julie's favorite topic right now, not since her family had gotten divorced, and Julie, her mother, and her sister had moved to a new neighborhood without Dad. Julie studied Ms. Hunter's precise penmanship on the blackboard, trying to imitate her teacher's loopy cursive writing, as she copied the topic into her own notebook. The story of my life. Just then, Julie's friend TJ slid a note over to her. Opening it in her lap, she sneaked a peek at it. The story of my life is too much homework. Julie looked at TJ and grinned. Then she turned her attention back to her notebook and carefully copied the complete homework assignment from the blackboard. My first memory, my brothers and sisters, when my mom was my age, when my dad was my age, the best thing that ever happened to me, the worst thing that ever happened to me. Julie's first memory, when she was 3 or 4, was sneaking into her parents' room and jumping on the big bed when nobody was looking. The best thing that ever happened was easy, getting to play on the boys' basketball team. It was the worst thing that Julie could not imagine writing about. Julie didn't even like thinking about her parents' divorce. "Class," Ms. Hunter was saying, "this project is not just for sitting at your desk and telling me what you remember. I would like each of you to be reporters here. Interview your family members and find out about them. Ask them questions. Learn something new about the people closest to you. I want at least 1 page on each of the topics," Ms. Hunter went on. "You'll also give an oral report to the class about all you've learned." An oral report to the class? This assignment just kept getting worse. It was bad enough that Julie's parents were divorced, but did she have to tell the whole class about it? Julie decided she would have to come down with a bad case of the dog ate my homework, or in her case, the rabbit ate my homework. Maybe she'd come down with writer's cramp, or writer's block, whatever that was. Julie pictured a gigantic toy block sitting on top of her hand, weighing it down so that she couldn't write. When Julie went to her locker at the end of the day, to grab her gym bag and head for basketball practice, she heard some of her classmates buzzing about their projects. Sure enough, it was the water fountain girls, who loved to chatter and gossip. "Oh, I can't wait to work on my family project," said Allison. "The best thing ever in my family was when we all went together on a vacation last summer to the Grand Canyon. I'm going to tell how my mom and dad went scuba diving for their 10th anniversary and brought back a real shark's tooth for me and my brothers," said Angela. "My mom's an identical twin, so when my mom and dad were getting married, they played a trick on him and my dad almost married my aunt," said Amanda. "We still tease him about how my aunt was almost my mom. I could tell that story." Julie sighed. It was so easy for them. They all had regular families and happy, funny stories. Maybe she could make up a pretend story about the worst thing that ever happened to her. Then she wouldn't have to write about the divorce for the whole entire class. But that would be cheating. "Earth to Julie," TJ said, waving his hand in front of her frowning face. "Ready for practice?" "I was just thinking," said Julie, "about our family report." "Don't remind me," said TJ. "What are you going to write for the best thing ever?" "Easy," said Julie. "Getting to play on the basketball team. Being one of the Jaguars is definitely the best thing that ever happened to me." "Speaking of basketball, you know how Coach Manley gets if we're late for practice," said TJ. "We'd better hurry, or we'll both be writing about getting kicked off the team for the worst thing that ever happened." That afternoon, Dad picked Julie up after school and drove her to his house for the weekend. Funny how she thought of the house she grew up in as Dad's house now, Julie reflected. As they drove, Julie decided to practice for her assignment. The 3 best things about staying at Dad's were: 1. Shooting hoops with Dad. 2. Seeing Ivy, her best friend who lived across the street. 3. Playing with Nutmeg, her pet rabbit. The 3 worst things about staying at Dad's were: 1. Missing Mom. 2. Missing Tracy, who usually refused to come to Dad's for the weekend. 3. Most of her stuff was at Mom's house now. When they arrived at Dad's, Julie headed for the back door. "I'm going to get Nutmeg." "I already brought her in," said Dad. "She's upstairs in your room." "Thanks, Dad," said Julie, racing up the stairs 2 at a time. She burst into her old bedroom and was surprised, as always, by how different it looked from before. No roll-top desk, no bookcase, no beanbag chair. The faded flower wallpaper had bright, unfaded rectangles where her posters used to be. This room, these 4 walls, this shaggy carpet were all she'd known for 9 years, her whole life. But nothing felt familiar anymore. When she called softly to Nutmeg, her voice seemed to echo, bouncing back to her off the blank walls. Julie scooped up Nutmeg from her basket in the corner, where the desk used to be, and ran back downstairs, keeping ahead of the empty feeling that the room gave her now. While Dad peeled an apple, Julie perched on the edge of the kitchen counter and dangled an apple peeling in front of Nutmeg's sniffing nose. Nutmeg's whiskers twitched and quivered with excitement. "You're awfully quiet this afternoon," Dad said. "Everything okay at school? How's basketball going?" Julie hesitated. She didn't want to tell Dad how the boys on the other teams sometimes called her mean names just because she was a girl. Instead, she told him about the 3 steals she'd made in the last game. "Aw, man, I wish I'd been there," said Dad. "We have a big game in 2 weeks against the Wildcats, and I'm kind of nervous about it," Julie told him. "You're coming, right?" "You bet I'll be there," said Dad. "I also have a gigantic school project I have to start working on," Julie sighed. "You don't sound very happy about it," said Dad. "It's just that, well..." She didn't quite know how to explain to Dad why it was hard for her to write about her family. She didn't want to make him feel bad. "It's just that my teacher gives so much homework," Julie said finally. She described the story of my and how she was supposed to interview everyone in her family. Sounds like fun to me, Dad said. I think the story of Julie Albright will make a great... You can tell about the time you tried to eat a banana slug because you thought a banana.
Dad, that's way too embarrassing.
You were only 2, Dad said. I think it's kind of cute and funny.
How about if I write about the time my dad fell into the duck pond at Golden Gate Park when we were playing catch?
Okay, truce. Dad held up both hands, palms out, as if to say stop.
But I do need to interview you, okay, Dad? Julie picked up a ketchup bottle and spoke into it. Reporting to you live from the home of Daniel Albright, world-famous pilot. He has just returned from a daring adventure.
Hey, wait a second, said Dad. Hold it right there, Ace. I have an idea.
He disappeared into the back room and came out holding both hands behind his back. What is it? Asked Julie.
Something I got for you in Japan. I was planning to put it away for Christmas, but it seems to me you could really use it for your school project. On the other hand, maybe we should wait, Dad teased.
Dad, I think it's a great idea to give it to me now. Julie leaped up and faked right, then left, using her fancy footwork from basketball to try to grab whatever Dad was holding behind his back.
Time out, foul, Dad called, blocking Julie. Okay, I give up.
Dad brought his hands out from behind his back, presenting the box he'd been hiding. What is it? A transistor radio? Asked Julie, looking at the picture on the front of the box. All the writing was in Japanese.
It's a portable tape recorder, said Dad, with a microphone and everything. It'll be great for your interviews, don't you think?
Dad pointed to the buttons.
See, if you plug in the microphone here and put in a blank tape, you can use it to record people.
You mean I can talk and sing into it and stuff? Asked Julie. Then play it back and hear myself on tape?
Yep, said Dad.
This is so boss. Thank you, Dad, Julie said, hugging him. Can I go over to Ivy's and show her my new tape recorder?
Be back by dinner, Dad called. Julie was already halfway out the door.
Hey, Poison Ivy, Julie said, bursting through the door as soon as her friend opened it. Allie Oopster! Or should I call you Allie Hoopster? Said Ivy. Look what my dad just gave me. A tape recorder. Julie held it up. Far out, said Ivy, imitating teenagers they heard on TV. Let's go to my room and try it. Ivy was sucking a grape popsicle, and she expertly caught a juicy purple drip before it ran down her arm. Ooh, keep slurping your popsicle real loud and I'll tape it. Julie turned on the tape recorder and said, testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, into the microphone. Then she held it up to Ivy. Ivy exaggerated the slurpy-lurpy sounds. Louder, Julie prompted. Now let's rewind and see if it worked. Julie played back the tape, and the two girls collapsed onto Ivy's bed, laughing. Is that what I sound like? Asked Julie. My voice sounds so weird. Well, don't feel bad. I sounded like a garbage disposal, said Ivy, prompting even more giggles. What else can we tape? Julie asked. The girls wandered around Ivy's house, taping anything they discovered that made a noise. They taped Ivy's little sister, Missy, crying for one more cookie. They taped Ivy's brother, Andrew, snoring while he napped on the sofa. They taped Ivy's mother singing to herself in Chinese while she stirred a pot of soup on the stove. When they played the tape back, Julie said, Your little sister's so cute, even when she's crying. Yeah, but you don't get stuck babysitting her, said Ivy. I wish I did, said Julie. I can't wait till I'm old enough to babysit. Hey, I know. Let's make some sound effects, said Ivy, like they do in plays and movies. Great idea, said Julie. Putting pairs of wooden-soled clogs onto their hands,
the girls clip-clopped against the floor to sound like a giant tromping down the stairs. A squeaky door sounded like a mouse when Julie held the microphone up to its hinges. For rain, they turned on the shower. "The toilet," said Julie. "Pretend you're about to get flushed down the toilet." "Help!" cried Ivy. "Save me! A giant whirlpool is about to..." Kerploosh! Ivy flushed the toilet while Julie held out the microphone. They bit their lips to keep from laughing. "Let's hear it," said Julie, hitting the rewind button. They listened to their entire collection of sound effects. When it came to flushing toilet, Ivy said, "That sounds like Yosemite Falls." They played it over and over, laughing harder each time. "Hey, Ivy, I gotta go," Julie said finally. "Dad said to be home by dinner time." "See you later," said Ivy. "And don't forget to blink your lights tonight when you go to bed, and I'll blink mine." It was their secret good night code. "I won't forget," Julie told her friend. Julie and Ivy played with the tape recorder all day Saturday. But after breakfast on Sunday, Julie realized that her weekend with Dad was almost over, and she still hadn't interviewed him for her school project. She popped a new blank tape into the recorder. "Go ahead, Dad. Tell me a story about when you were my age." "Let's see if I can remember that far back, to the Stone Age." "Come on, Dad, this is serious," Julie said. "Okay," said Dad, settling into his favorite chair. "When I was in the 4th grade, growing up in Duluth, Minnesota, money was tight and none of us could afford a bike. So my buddies and I fished a real junker out of the trash and fixed it all up. We painted it black and yellow and called it the Hornet. We spent a whole summer swapping that bike around. Our favorite thing was building ramps so we could do jumps. One day, just as I took the jump, my pants got snagged in the chain and I lost my balance. I went head over handlebars, landing all twisted up like a pretzel." "Whoa! Were you hurt bad?" Julie asked. "Well, I broke my foot, and I had to wear a clunky cast the rest of the summer. Couldn't take a bath for over a month, which I didn't much mind when I was 10, but I couldn't go swimming either." "Did you have to use crutches? Did it heal up okay?" "Yep, I did get pretty fast on crutches, and the doc told me something interesting that I've never forgotten," said Dad, taking off his shoe. "In the spot where the bone was broken, it actually knits itself back together stronger than before." He took Julie's hand and ran her finger over a small bump on the top of his foot. "That's all that's left from the break?" Julie asked. "That's all," said Dad. By the time Dad dropped Julie off at Mom's apartment, it was dinner time on Sunday evening. Julie skipped up the steps to the front door, still filled with all the fun she'd had over the weekend. But when she turned to wave goodbye to Dad, she couldn't help but feel a now familiar pang, knowing Dad was headed back by himself to the too-quiet house full of empty rooms. Julie watched the beams of Dad's headlights fade as his car disappeared down the hill, and she headed inside and into the kitchen, where heavenly smells coaxed away her sad feelings. "Hi, honey," said Mom. "How was your weekend?" "Good. Mom, what's that great smell?" "Just meatloaf in the oven," said Mom, "and I made gravy for the potatoes." "It smells yummy, Mom. Hey, look what Dad brought me from Japan." Julie pulled out her tape recorder, pushed the record button, and held up the microphone. "We're here above the famous shop Glad Rags, speaking with owner Joyce Albright. Mrs. Albright, who is normally hard at work running her store, is today making a rare appearance in the kitchen. Tell us, Mrs. Albright, what's cooking for dinner?" "I already told you it's meatloaf," said Mom. "Well then, what is it you're making now that's getting flour all over your apron?" Mom dusted off her hands and brushed her apron, puffing a small cloud of fine flour in the air. "Cherry pie. All this flour is from rolling out the crust." "Like Grandma's?" Julie asked. momentarily forgetting her reporter role.
With the fancy crust and vanilla ice cream on top?
That's the one, said Mom. Julie, honey, could you put that microphone down and start setting the table? We'll be ready to eat in about 10 minutes as soon as this goes into the oven.
Where's Tracy? It's her turn to set the table.
Then get your sister, said Mom. Julie set down her tape recorder, but as she started down the hall, Tracy pushed past her into the kitchen.
Mom says come set the table,
Julie told her sister. It's not my turn to set the table, said Tracy, plucking a carrot from the salad as Mom pretend-swatted her hand.
You're cracked. I set the table last on Thursday because the next day I left for Dad's,
Julie retorted.
Well, I set it for the last 2 nights in a row while you were gone,
said Tracy.
Yeah, well, so did I at Dad's. That's 3 nights for me. But what would you know? You didn't even come to Dad's.
Girls, said Mom. Enough with the 100 Years' War. Julie hasn't even been back 10 minutes, and you two are already at it. Tracy, get the plates and glasses. Julie, set out the silverware. You haven't seen each other all weekend, and I want us to have a nice, peaceful dinner together.
Well, she started it,
said Julie. Mom gave Julie a sharp look. I don't want to have to tell you again. If you two don't stop bickering, there will be no cherry pie for dessert.
What? You made cherry pie?
Asked Tracy.
Just like Grandma's, said Julie, with ladders for the crust and everything.
Lattice, said Mom. Yum, said Julie. That's one thing we can agree on, Tracy grinned. Chapter 2. Meet Charlotte. The next day after school, the string of brass bells jingled as Julie came in through the front door of Glad Rags, calling, "Hello? Anybody home?" She made her way past racks of ponchos and peasant shirts, Mexican masks and blankets, and shelves of sandalwood incense. "Hi, honey," Mom called from the back room. "Good timing. I was just fixing myself a cup of tea. How's school today?"
Fine, Mom. Is now a good time to tape you?
Sure, but if any customers come... Julie was already dashing upstairs. She grabbed her tape recorder and hurried back down to the shop. Julie held out the microphone, and Mom began telling her all about the time when she was 10, growing up on an apple farm in Santa Rosa, north of San Francisco. "I got a horse named Firefly for my 10th birthday, and of course I couldn't wait to ride her. I begged and pleaded for a whole year wanting a horse of my own. But before I even climbed into the saddle, the horse got spooked and acted all crazy, rearing and jumping and bucking."
Whoa,
Julie whispered. "She broke away from your grandpa, who was holding the reins, and ran out through the garden and around the apple orchard. We chased her for half the morning. Finally, she stepped on her reins, and that stopped her." "What spooked her so badly?" asked Julie. "Later, we discovered poor Firefly had been stung by a bee right on her nose. So I finally got my horse, but after that incident, I was afraid to ride her for the longest time." Just as Mom was finishing her story, Tracy came in and plunked a towering armload of school books on the table. "Shh," Julie mouthed, holding a finger to her lips and frowning. "Is it safe to talk now?" Tracy asked impatiently when Mom finished. Julie pressed the stop button and nodded. Tracy held up a leafy green plant spilling out of a milk carton. "What's that?" asked Julie. "Meet Charlotte, my new roommate," Tracy said. Mom laughed. "Your new roommate is a spider plant?"
Oh, I get it, said Julie. Charlotte, like the spider in Charlotte's Web?
"Exactly," said Tracy.
Who gave you a plant for a present?
"A boy?" Julie teased. "No, it's not a present. It's a project we're doing in biology. All the kids in the class got their own spider plants. I have to take care of it and keep a daily journal where I track how much water it gets and stuff like that." "That'll really brighten up your room," Mom said.
and houseplants are good to have around. They're supposed to clean up the air. Wow, they gave you a real-life plant at school? Julie exclaimed. All I ever got was a potato. We made potato people in art class once. Well, it better not croak, because this is worth 20 points of my grade. Julie picked up the microphone and clicked record. She pointed it at Tracy. It helps plants grow if you play music or sing to them. Why didn't you sing Eensy Weensy Spider to Charlotte? On tape? You have got to be kidding. I'm not singing to a plant. Come on, I could use it in my family report. I have a school project too, you know. Turn that thing off, Tracy said, reaching over and pressing the stop button. Mom, do you have any pots or planters around? I have to transplant Charlotte. Let's see, said Mom, looking around the workroom. Check that box on the bottom shelf. Tracy rummaged through the box. Hey, what's this? She asked, holding up a clay hippo. Aw, that's cute, said Julie. What is it? A candy dish with legs? No, it's actually for a plant, said Mom. A guy here in San Francisco makes them, and he gave me one as a sample to see if I'd sell them at the shop. It's perfect! I bet I'll even get extra credit for having such a cute planter, Tracy crowed. Thanks, Mom. Julie grabbed her tape recorder and followed Tracy up the back stairs into the kitchen. Stop following me with that thing, said Tracy. I'm not following you. I just need to tape you for school. Part of my report is about brothers and sisters. And guess what? I don't have any brothers. Can't you see I have more important things to worry about right now? Help me spread newspapers on the kitchen table so I can repot my plant. Julie spread out the newspapers while Tracy scooped up the plant from the milk carton and transferred it into the hippo pot. She poured the spilled dirt around it, patting it with her hands. In no time, the spider plant had a happy new home on Tracy's desk. Julie followed Tracy back down the hall to the kitchen with her tape recorder. Now can I tape you? She asked. No, I have an important call to make. Tracy took the phone off the kitchen wall and stretched the cord down the hall into her room, shutting the door. Mom says we're not allowed to stretch the phone cord, Julie said to the closed door. The twisted phone cord peeked out from under Tracy's door and snaked down the hallway. It reminded Julie of a stretched-out slinky, and it gave her an idea. If Tracy wouldn't take the time to be interviewed, the tape would just have to come to Tracy. Feeling like Harriet the Spy, Julie tiptoed down the hall to her mother's bedroom. Tape recorder in hand, she gingerly picked up the other extension and soundlessly placed the microphone next to the receiver. Then she tiptoed back to her room. Julie could picture Tracy sitting at her window seat, twirling a strand of hair around her finger as she chit-chatted with her friend. After what felt like forever, Julie heard her sister hang the phone back up in the kitchen. She sneaked past Tracy's closed door, hung up the extension in Mom's room, grabbed the tape recorder, and made a dash for the safety of her own room. Her closet was the only place that afforded Julie the extra privacy she needed to listen to her secret tape. She switched on the closet light, hit rewind, and adjusted the volume to low. At first, Tracy's talk with her friend Suzanne was just boring stuff about kids Julie didn't know, such as which girls liked which boys and what to wear to some dance. Then halfway into the conversation, Julie couldn't believe her ears. She hit rewind and played it again. A secret like this was too big to hold in. A secret like this, especially when it was about your big sister, was meant to be shared. Julie peeked out of her bedroom door. The coast was clear. She ran to the kitchen and dialed Ivy's number, stretching the cord all the way to her room this time, ignoring the warning she'd given Tracy a little while ago. Hey, Ivy, it's me. Want to hear a super-duper juicy secret? Sure. That's what friends are for, isn't it? Both girls giggled nervously. It's not about me, Julie explained. It's about Tracy. I got it on tape. Listen to this. But you have to promise you won't tell. Cross your heart? Of course I won't tell. What is it? Julie pushed the play button and held the phone receiver up to the tape recorder. Suzanne. When did this happen? Tracy. At the movies last Saturday. I went to see Jaws with a bunch of kids from the tennis team, but I like this one boy, Matt, so I made Jill switch seats so I could sit next to him. Suzanne. What did Matt do? Tracy. Well, first I thought he didn't even like me, but he did share his sweet tarts with me. Then, the next thing I knew, there's this long part where they're on the boat, and it's real quiet, and... Suzanne. Yeah, what happened? Tracy. He reached over and held my hand. Just like that. I was so surprised I almost swallowed my gum. Suzanne. He held your hand? Tracy. Yeah, I thought everything was going great. But then, right after the movie, he told me I chewed my gum too loud during the scary parts. Suzanne. He said that? Rude. Julie hit stop. Ivy, could you hear all that? My sister has a boyfriend. Tracy and Matt sitting in a tree, Julie chanted. Yuck. I can't believe she really likes a boy. Yup. And I know who he is, too. I've seen him at Tracy's tennis matches. He has really blonde hair and peach fuzz on his lip that looks like a milk mustache. Gross, said Ivy. Are you going to tell her you know? Well, if I do, she'll ask how I found out. She'd never believe it was just by chance. Still, it would be a waste not to bug her about it somehow. I want to hold your hand. I want to hold your hand. I want to hold your hand. Julie was singing a Beatles song into her microphone and dancing around her room after dinner when Tracy poked her head in the doorway. Knock, knock, said Tracy. I hate to interrupt the concert, but Mom says she could really use our help downstairs in the shop. She got a whole shipment of nightlights today. I'll help, said Julie, dropping her microphone on the bed. She pushed past Tracy and headed down the back steps. Last one there's a rotten egg, she shouted as she raced down the stairs ahead of Tracy. Mom set 2 big boxes on the back work table. Girls, can you unpack these nightlights? Be careful with the seashells. We have to put them together first, then price each one. Julie lifted some delicate shells out of the box. Wow, look at this shell, she said, holding up a round purplish globe. It almost looks like a starfish on top. That's a sea urchin, said Mom. It works like a mini lampshade. Mom showed them how to assemble one of the nightlights, carefully placing the globe over a small nightlight bulb and then plugging it in to make sure it worked. When Mom flicked off the overhead lamp, the soft light cast delicate patterns on the shadowy wall. The magical light transported Julie back to Christmas when she was little. In her mind's eye, she saw herself, Mom, and Tracy stringing popcorn by the twinkling lights of the Christmas tree, while Dad stood on a stepladder, pinning the star to the very top of the tree. I want one of these for my room, said Tracy, breaking the spell. I can make you a really good deal, said Mom, chuckling. The girls set to work assembling the nightlights and putting price stickers on the bottom of each one. Julie loved handling the pretty seashells and trying to decide which shape she liked best. She felt like an elf in Santa's workshop. What fun it was to be helping Mom in the back of the shop after hours. It occurred to her that if her parents hadn't split up, her mother might never have opened Glad Rags. Julie sighed, confused. How could she feel so torn between the way things used to be and the way her life was now? Tracy pulled a conch shell out of the box. All of a sudden, she put one hand up to her forehead, making a fin, and sang, dun 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 dun, in a deep, ominous, hollow, drum-sounding voice. Julie tilted her head, looking puzzled. It's the music from the movie Jaws, Tracy explained. You know, the great white shark. Don't go in the water, she warned in a creepy voice, then reached out to grab Julie's leg. Ah! Screamed Julie, almost dropping one of the fragile shells. Girls, be careful. These break easily, Mom cautioned. So, you like the movie? Julie casually asked. Yeah, I'm gonna go see it again, said Tracy. I didn't think Jaws was still playing in theaters, Mom said. There's just one theater in San Francisco that still plays it all the time, said Tracy. And everybody screams when the shark attacks, no matter how many times they've seen it. Tracy turned back to the nightlights. They made a giant model of a shark for the movie, she added. It's called Bruce. How do you know that? Asked Julie. My friend told me. He got the poster with a picture of it at the theater, said Tracy. He? Asked Julie. As in, boyfriend? Grow up, said Tracy. When you're in high school, you can have friends that are boys. It's no big deal. Tracy was always acting so superior. Well, for once, Tracy wasn't the only one with special insider knowledge. Did you get anything to eat at the movies? Julie asked. Not really, said Tracy. Not even gum? Julie pressed. Huh? What are you talking about? Oh, I was just thinking about how it's fun to chew gum at the movies. Like, during the scary parts. It helps to not be scared if you chew your gum real loud. Tracy opened her eyes wide and shot Julie a look. A, how do you know that? You'd better not say another word look. Julie could see the machinery of Tracy's mind, turning it over like a tricky math problem, as she struggled to figure out how Julie knew about the gum. My, you girls sure are quiet all of a sudden, Mom remarked. Mom, how much longer do you think this will take? I have homework, said Tracy. Julie does too, don't you? Tracy challenged her younger sister with her eyes. Go on up, said Mom. You girls were really a big help tonight. Thank you. The second they got to the top of the stairs, Tracy turned on Julie, wagging an accusing finger at her. You eavesdropped on me. You listened right outside my door when I was on the phone with Suzanne, didn't you? Admit it. I did not. I was nowhere near your room when you were on the phone. I was right here, almost the whole time, said Julie, walking into her room and pointing to her bed. Tracy followed her. What was all that about the gum, then? I have homework, remember? Said Julie, plopping down on her bed. I'm not leaving till you tell me what you heard. How's Matt the Gnat? Julie teased. Oh, Tracy huffed, hands on her hips. You, she stuttered, but words wouldn't come out. Tracy has a boyfriend, Julie teased in a sing-song voice. I do not. You better not tell anybody. Do too. I have proof right here. Julie popped out the cassette tape and held it up, taunting her sister. Who do you think you are, Little Miss Watergate? Give me that tape, said Tracy, reaching over and snatching it out of Julie's hand. Hey, that's my homework. Give it back. Tracy held the tape out of Julie's reach. Don't you know it's illegal to tape someone without telling them? It was? Julie felt a twinge of guilt, but she mustered a comeback anyway. So, what are you gonna do? Call the police? Tracy hesitated, glaring at her sister, then tossed the tape on the floor. Julie snatched it up. You better not tell anyone about this, Tracy hissed through clenched teeth. I mean it, Julie. She stomped out of the room, and Julie heard the angry slam of Tracy's door down the hall. Just then, Mom came into Julie's room with a startled look. What was that all about? Nothing, said Julie. Mom, what's Watergate? A few years ago,
President Nixon hired people to spy on his political opponents. When he got caught, he lied and tried to cover it up. But some secret tapes revealed that he was lying, so he resigned from being president. That's why Gerald Ford is our president now. Mom raised her eyebrows. Why do you ask?
Tracy just called me Little Miss Watergate. But I wasn't lying about anything, Julie said innocently. I was just trying to tape her for my project.
Mom gave Julie a serious look. It's okay for your school project, she said, if you have her permission. But otherwise, I don't want you bothering your sister with that tape recorder. Chapter 3. This Little Piggy. At school the next day, Ms. Hunter took the class to the library to read biographies. Julie chose a biography of Clara Barton and sat down next to TJ.
What'd you get?
She whispered. He held up a book about Daniel Boone. Julie looked down at her book and tried to concentrate on the words she was reading. Clara Barton, angel of the Civil War battlefield, watched over her patients as the surgeon dressed their wounds with corn husks. She tried not to look at TJ. One look at her friend, and she knew she'd start giggling. But finally, she turned to TJ again.
Are you going to be at practice today after school? She whispered.
Of course. It's only 2 weeks to the big game.
Yikes. 2 weeks till we play the Wildcats,
Julie whispered.
They're undefeated, said TJ. And they have this one player?
Class, said Ms. Hunter. Remember what I said about visiting with your neighbor. This is supposed to be silent reading. After basketball practice, Coach Manley called the team into a huddle. Johnson, work on that defense inside. Albright, I've seen notes in class pass faster than your bounce pass. McDermott, what's with all the fouls? Tomorrow, you'd better be over your case of the clumsies. That's it, players. See you tomorrow. As soon as Coach Manley was out of earshot, TJ muttered, What got into Coach today? I feel like I just ran a marathon or something. What's wrong with my defense anyway? Complained Paul Johnson, point guard for the Jaguars.
And I had one of my best passes ever,
Julie chimed in. I think Coach Manley needs glasses. He's just uptight about playing the Wildcats. He thinks we're not ready to take them on, said Tommy McDermott, the team captain. At this rate, we're going to be too tired to play the Wildcats, said TJ, and everybody laughed. I hear they have this one fifth grader who's practically 6 feet tall, said Tony Monteverdi, who played center. They call him Dunk because he can jam balls right through the hoop. Yeah, he thinks he's the next Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, said Brian Hannigan, the team's forward. Brian was 5'8" himself, but even he looked worried. Great, said Julie. I bet he's just going to love playing against a team with a girl. Hey, don't go thinking that way, said Paul. You're one of the best ball handlers we've got on this team. We don't call you Cool Hand Albright for nothing.
Really? You guys gave me a nickname?
Are you kidding? Said TJ. You can dribble rings around half this team. All the way home, Julie couldn't stop thinking about the Wildcats. Just the thought of going up against the legendary Dunk made her shiver. To chase away the goosebumps, Julie recalled Paul's words. One of the best ball handlers.